Hey everyone, welcome to Political Radar Echo, 30 minutes of political talk about current topics with panelists from a variety of viewpoints. I'm your host, Cassandra, and this is episode number 10.
This is Political Radar Echo with Cassandra, where we cover many political issues affecting our country with a panel of guests from many viewpoints.
Our panelists today are Terry Lee and Vanya Koepke. Welcome, Vanya. You're another second-time panelist. So
Thanks for having us.
Is that a badge of honor now?
Yes, yes.
I got to put that on my bucket list.
Yeah, right. Terry, can you give us a brief introduction?
I'm a former radio news reporter. So I've been in the news, in the past, both TV and radio, more in the radio side of things. I used to work over at WTAQ. You move and ebb and flow in things, and family life kind of got me in a different direction, a different career path. But, after lying low a little bit, I've been wearing my, heart on my sleeve a little bit more when it comes to some things. So I'm actively involved in, groups and stuff like that. I'm the kind of the communications guy for Citizens Action Northeast Wisconsin. It's a local organizing cooperative, part of the statewide group. So I've been doing that now for, since the beginning of the year. And, we've been working on a ton of issues, which have been great. Fair maps, healthcare, environmental issues are starting to arise now. We've got social justice moving. So we've got a lot of stuff in the works and a lot of projects going. So I'm happy to be part
Very
of that.
cool. I'm glad we were finally able to get you on. Vanya.
Yes, thanks for having me back. Just love Green Bay. I work at Schneider, serve on the Current Young Professionals Ambassador Board. I'm the chair of that committee for the chamber, serve on the board of the Howe Community Resource Center and UW Green Bay Alumni Board. Just love this community, and I love that you have guests on the show because topics like this really need that discussion in the first place.
Yeah.
Thanks for giving us the time to do that.
So our topic today is Wisconsin's had some national spotlight on us because we are supposedly getting a Foxconn facility. Foxconn, for anyone who doesn't know, they are the people who make our iPhones, a lot of electronics, but they are currently only in China, I believe, or Taiwan. We are looking at getting one possibly in southeast Wisconsin, from my understanding. But as you can imagine, it's not just that easy. They're not just showing up here and building. There's been a lot of politics involved. And the first thing that I want to touch on is Wisconsin it seems like they won this bid for this facility because of the financial incentives that were offered to Foxconn.
Winning, I guess I'd have to be opposed to that because we don't. State officials, even at the public hearing this past Thursday, basically said we don't know what other states offered. So, part in us winning a bid, I don't know what to say about that.
Right. I think there were maybe, Vanya, do you remember, were there like 5 other states that they were looking at?
Yes, there were. Illinois was one of them. I know it was something the Tribune hasn't stopped writing about for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. I just read an article from the Tribune, and they kind of slammed their own state for being such a mess, and their pension. They said that their pension plans and everything have caused companies like
if you don't have your financial books in order, doing projects like this and being able to be supportive of them, and to spur economic growth, you got to have your books in order.
Yeah.
And Chicago is just definitely not that place right now. But they are close to water, which is why they want to move.
Right. Well, it was interesting too because the Tribune said that all of the reasons that they cited for picking Wisconsin all had to do with Illinois, the proximity to O'Hare, the proximity to Lake Michigan, all those things Illinois could have offered, but instead Wisconsin is getting the nod, or supposedly. So, so the financial incentives. Who would like to talk about that? What
Vanya,
financial? Vanya?
Sure.
What do you hear?
I can touch a little bit on it. I think at the offset, I think it's just important to note that it's key that we're having this discussion because when this was announced, it was all about hyper-partisanship. Within hours of the announcement, you had the yays and the nays decided. When you have public hearings, when you have any data. So I'm glad we're having this discussion because we're hopefully going to get some more information out there and kind of get rid of the hyper-partisanship and actually have a discussion on it. From my understanding, the financial incentives that are attached to this are based on the jobs that will be provided for Wisconsin. So it's not going to be $1 billion or a $2 or $3 billion check. From what I've seen, it's going to be incremental based on the jobs.
That's what
on
I've
those
read
stipulations.
as well.
Yes.
They have
It's
to-
actually not based on the jobs.
okay. What do you have?
The bill, which I have read, is actually not based on jobs. It's based on the zone state payroll. So basically, you have this amount, and this is what we're going to give you
Okay.
for incentives.
So what
So
I
now there is some based on that regarding they won't go apparently over 100,000 for salary, and then they won't go as low as, from what I understand, they say 30,000, but also that could be as low as 22,000, like $60 or something like that. Can't remember, 680, I think it is.
So okay, the financial incentives just basically is what's offered is $3 billion in tax increment funding over 15 years.
Yeah, this isn't tax increment funding. This is straight up tax credits. So basically, this deal in history, Wisconsin typically offers about 7 cents on the dollar for every dollar invested, wages, whatever, stuff like that.
Okay.
Foxconn adds another dime to that. So it's 17 cents for every dollar that they spend. They will now get, basically, in essence, a check for money. And I do say that as a check because it's a tax credit. And that tax credit also goes against anything that they would owe for taxes. Well, manufacturers in Wisconsin currently, they pay 0.4% in manufacturing. And that's based on a manufacturing and agriculture tax credit, which was passed a few years ago and has been rolled out now. And this current session, it's worth about, 570 million bucks currently right now, paid to manufacturers. Well, they don't pay it, excuse me. They don't pay that. They don't pay it. So when Foxconn comes here, they're not going to pay, they're going to pay 0.4 of taxes. And then on top of that, they're getting 17 cents on every dollar. So basically, they're not going to pay any taxes. They're just going to get a check.
I didn't find it. Did you see that?
Well,
Did you see that?
they're not going to pay any taxes. That would be kind of an absurd proposal.
For what
us.
taxes would they be paying?
Oh, well, each employee's going to be paying, obviously, their salary tax. They're going to be paying for their machinery tax. I mean, property tax is going to be taxed. So, I mean, I don't see us bringing in a business that's not going to benefit the revenue of Wisconsin. Okay. I'm sure our legislature isn't sitting there like, oh, cool, let's put up a building and pay them money. That would be absurd.
Well, that's basically how it pans out right now if you do the numbers, which we don't have at this point.
Yeah.
The legislative Wisconsin Fiscal Bureau has put out nothing for stuff yet. Now, they did a memorandum of the bill that we know so far, but that's it. We don't have any numbers yet.
Okay. So what I've seen has been tax increment funding. It's been TIF money. I haven't seen what you have, and I guess we'll have to wait.
That is a TID district, tax
Okay.
increment financing district.
Okay.
Which is, it basically, WEDC, under this bill, gets to define its enterprising zones, and this is just one zone. There could be other ones across the state. So that is in the bill. But the bulk of where they go, that's where basically they get tax credits when it comes to this. What happens inside that zone or maybe somewhere else as well. So that's why there have been reports, there have been multiple sites listed. But as of we know right now, according to WEDC CEO, Mr. Hogan, he says this will be located in either Kenosha or Racine County. So we know that.
Right. That's what I've seen as well. Vanya. Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, I've seen Kenosha or Racine. Then there's the report that maybe a second facility in Dane, but that in Dane County,
Yeah,
but that's kind of
kind of washy-washy.
yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, the bill specifically lays out that there are opportunities for other enterprise zones, other TID districts, TIDs.
And so the WEDC, the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, is the one who would monitor the jobs, which is how
Supposedly, yes.
how they're saying they would get the funding, correct?
They're the ones who basically green light, and they're supposed to monitor how many jobs are created. And then they basically green light to the Department of Revenue saying, hey, these guys are good on their word. You can give them this much this year, or they've spent this much billion this year in construction, so you can give them tax credits.
Have you seen much about them?
Not a whole lot.
I've just seen that they're
WEDC is one of my biggest red flags.
Okay.
It's because Green Bay Senator Rob Coles has been awesome when it comes to putting the feet to the fire, when it comes to having this corporation really perform the way it's supposed to. And as of even right now, every single audit that they've had have said that this private public corporation does not accurately monitor jobs or has any records of loans. They've been a very horrendous job. And the latest Legislative Audit Bureau found that WEDC did not contractually, this is March 2017, WEDC did not contractually require grant and loan recipients to submit information. They didn't comply with statutes that annually verified jobs-related information submitted by tax credit recipients to contractually required the results that they are supposed to achieve. Now, right now, WEDC controls $190 million in tax credits to businesses, individuals, grants, loans, and now we're going to bump this up to $3 billion. So they're not even doing their job now at $190 million, but now we're going to throw $3 billion on their lap, say, hey, you guys monitor this, and say, hey, you guys are okay. I will trust you. I don't trust them.
Any idea how can we monitor it better? Vanya, do you have any ideas on that? Or
Well, yeah, I mean, I would imagine there would be individuals within the governor's cabinet who would be, with whether it's the jobs department or whatnot, coming alongside that. I don't think they're just going to be left alone. There's going to be some sort of supervision that'll help with this.
Well, I'm sure there'll be some supervision. I think
Hopefully.
It might be a
yeah. So
But I mean, in a large picture, I mean, when you look at Wisconsin's, 3.1 unemployment rate, lowest in decades, you see how we're performing in the top 10. You see the jealousy that the Tribune's writing about in Illinois, in other Midwest states. There has been business growth and business success. So this legislature isn't going to go and do this just for the fun of it, especially, pairing with the White House. They're going to do something that's going to continue to keep us in the top 10, maybe even the top 5 for jobs, for economic growth, things of that sort. Because once you have those successful things going on, more entrepreneurship happens, more opportunities happen for college students. So this is, we don't have many details, but from what I'm seeing, it's a thought-out plan that's going to benefit the state and keep us on that trajectory of success that we've been having. And, if it becomes political, I'm sure it already has, it's fine, but I think it's important to celebrate things that could benefit our state. So
yeah, I do have to agree with you.
I think it's the biggest thing. We got to celebrate things that could help our state. And if down the road we see some of these challenges, well, the electorate, the voters will talk to the electorate through the next election. But I mean, we're seeing success, so I think we're going to keep on building on that success here.
I don't think it's measurable success. While I totally agree with you when it comes to politics, I saw all these liberal groups and conservative groups automatically throw this stuff out there.
Yeah.
When right now, this cannot be political. It will be political come the governor's race in the future. But at this point right now in time, it's upsetting that politics immediately gets thrown into this, and all these groups are putting all these numbers out and stuff like that. But it's like, chill out. We need to have a measured, pragmatic conversation about $3 billion going out to a multi-billion-dollar company that, in my opinion, does not need it.
Yeah, I do think we need to really just sit and talk it out, and I think there needs to be accountability and there needs to be transparency.
Oh yeah,
because $3 billion in taxpayer money is a lot of money.
As of right now, there is no accountability to this company. It's all on WEDC. We basically lay it out in the bill saying we'll give you this much money, this much money, this much money, but it's all up to WEDC. And here, the contract negotiations still have yet to happen yet with Foxconn right now.
Right.
And CEO Mark Hogan says nothing's in writing when asked to say if $20 could be an easy starting wage. Nothing there.
Yeah.
He says it's not necessary. He says it's also not necessary to put anything in the bill. It's also the intent that it would be a $30,000 starting pay. That would be the intent. And also the median wage, I would expect, would be beginning at $20 an hour.
That's an interesting part of it. What I've seen has been the average yearly wage that they're throwing out there. They're saying the average
cannot
yearly
look at that.
wage is $53,000, but what I would like to see is the median.
Sure.
I would like to see that median wage. $53,000 could be a lot of people who are making $10 an hour with a few people who are making quite a bit of money. So I'd really like to see that. I'd like to see that number. I think that would give us a better idea of what people are actually going to make there and what kind of jobs.
That's why like
be
the
available.
AFL-CIO has put out a list of what they would like to see in this bill when it comes to accountability. They've got a big long list of stuff here, and one of those is making sure that the legislation right now doesn't say anything about bringing in immigrants.
Okay.
The H-1B, H-2B visas.
Okay.
Doesn't it says that we have to hire Wisconsin workers?
Right. Or it could be what's to say Illinois people don't come up.
That's been
work
a
there.
concern that lawmakers have all represented. And what I thought was quite funny was Department of Revenue, can't remember who it was, Secretary Scott Nitzel made a joke. And this was his assurance for good paying jobs. I wish I had it here. But it's something like, if you work in Wisconsin, why would you live in Illinois? That was his line. But we can't be joking about this. It needs to be accountable. It needs to be measurable. And we need to have that in here in this bill. And right now, in its current form, it's not in there.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to a couple other concerns that people have, or a couple other things that I think should be worked out or talked about before all of this goes through. First of all, this company does have a history of making promises and not necessarily following through. In Pennsylvania, they had promised to build a $30 million facility, hiring 500 workers, and it still hasn't been built. That was in 2013, I believe. Do we worry about that at all here in Wisconsin? Do we worry about that happening, or?
Well, I think it's going to happen in one shape or another. There will be a facility built.
Okay.
I mean, one, it comes with the magnitude of the White House behind it, and obviously the governor was at the White House with the speaker. So I mean, there's a lot of pressure. So it'll be
Right.
built, but I mean, to the point that we're just talking here, those measurable results and what will the pay be, I think that'll be discussed. But I doubt that we'll see another Pennsylvania. There's way too much magnitude behind this, and too many electoral points at stake for our elected officials to not have this built.
That part of it all bothers me, though. The thought of is it coming to Wisconsin because Trump really wants to win Wisconsin again, or
Yeah.
There have
is
been
it
theories when it comes to tariffs and stuff like that, when it comes to trade, that you need to have some of this here and you get in his good graces kind of thing. You could look at stuff like that, but just besides Pennsylvania, just the states here, but either way, there's been promises to build in Jakarta and also India and Vietnam and Brazil have all been, they said they're going to do this, something flashy, bing, bing, boom. And
Right.
then there's nothing
Right.
there.
Yeah, I did
Nothing
see
there at all.
one in India too. So hopefully that's not the case. I guess the only way we know is to wait and see on that
Yeah,
one.
I mean, touted as the largest,
Right.
jobs project in Wisconsin's history. So I mean,
And
yeah,
also
this would
could be
a-
touted in the end after several years as one of the most bad deals Wisconsin has ever got into. I want to avoid that.
exactly.
I do too. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's huge, 20 million square feet.
11 Lambos, I think.
Yeah, and like a mile and a half square
That's
miles
amazing.
in acreage.
And lots of
So-
robots.
Yeah, well, and so when we talk about a complex that's that size, we also worry about the environmental concerns. And what I have seen is a little concerning in that they are making concessions in our wetlands rules for this company. What are your thoughts on that? It would waive the environmental reviews. It would roll back protections for wetlands. I did see something saying that for every one wetland that they destroy, they have to create 2. I don't know, how do we measure that or keep them accountable for that?
Well, I tell you this much: it's supposedly strong. It's it's strengthened under this law, which would be they say it's going to be 2 to 1. Relocation of a wetland. Right now, the current law is 1.2. But this bill doesn't say anything that you actually have to do it in the same local community.
Okay.
One of the lawmakers and the state official agreed, saying they could build this up in Superior.
Okay, so they could take a wetland in Kenosha
So you've got
and
or and on top of that, they could just give money and say build a wetland later.
okay.
So that's one of the things that's concerning. But having an environmental impact study is what it was. It's been characterized as burdensome and benefits no one. This really benefits the local communities that are there. They can now move an entire stream, or because it goes way beyond the wetland exemption.
Right.
They can move an entire stream.
Yep.
They can dig down deep. Maybe they might hit an aquifer. I don't know. There's all these things. You don't know any of that, of what the building is going to look like or what it's designed, because that's what the environmental impact study all lays out and does. It basically says, how are you going to build your building to be able to have, the public interest, the public trust in mind when it comes to protecting water and land, because that's what our waters are considered in this state, is a public trust. So if you violate that, you're in violation of the Constitution of Wisconsin. So being able to scapegoat these, they say, they have to still, keep in line with all the federal stuff. That's great. But when it comes down to it, 20% of Wisconsin's lands are federal wetlands. And Fed stuff only applies to navigable waterways. So basically anything you can put a boat on or, a ship or something like that, it doesn't matter. So basically no federal protections really apply to this. So they say that and they throw that out there.
Yeah.
But in essence, these are our state laws. And we're basically writing them a blank check saying, hey, do whatever you want.
And, in Wisconsin, water is a big tourism draw and everything too. So I would hate to see...
Governor Walker always promotes it. We got more than 10,000 lakes in Minnesota.
Yeah, I would hate to see any of that compromised. And that means that's dollars for our state as well. When people come into the state for tourism, that's also part of our economy.
I think one of these concerns too, with the bill that it does too, is that you could build on a lake bed.
Oh, this one?
Yeah, they could manipulate a lake bed. So if they're so it's like, okay, I think we need to have our environmental laws, because the League of Conservation voters testified at the hearing and said any project worth doing is worth doing well. And we should hold that standard to these guys. Just, we're giving them money. Hey, you can at least adhere to our environmental laws here.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on that, on the environmental laws?
For sure. Oh, most definitely. I would agree with, we have to, number one, abide with the Constitution of Wisconsin. Also, do what's best for the environment. At the same time, there's just the area they're looking at, Racine and Kenosha, there's just so much infrastructure already and so many developed areas where they could either clear an area and add to it or build closer to that. So I don't think we're going to go in the middle of a forest or on the beach and just drop one in. So I think they're going to hopefully utilize some of that space. But at the same time, our DNR is tough. You mentioned the 2 to 1, and any project that I've heard about in Wisconsin, even as simple as local projects here. There's, for every highway, there's a retention pond. There's always that reconstruction of a wetland. So I definitely hope they maintain to that, but also utilize some of the already developed space and try to build as closer to that as possible.
Yeah. I worry a little bit about you both mentioned the infrastructure down there. Just like the water works alone at Racine and Kenosha, are they going to be able to handle, do they already have the ability to handle the cleaning of the water and everything that will come out of that facility?
Racine wastewater. I actually did speak with a treatment worker who works for Racine wastewater, and they've already had a powwow and little meetings at this. Foxconn says they are going to be using 10 million gallons per day of water. That comes from Lake Michigan. It gets sapped through and then gets treated back and then gets sent back through. As of right now, the infrastructure there for Racine wastewater, they say that they would have to expand, which means that local communities, counties area, whatever that are in the agreements, would have to pay for that. That's not in this bill. So if they need to treat that and send it back out to them, they need to build the infrastructure to do that. And they need to get going on it right away if they want to get up and operational by 2020.
So do we put that on Foxconn and ask them to pay for it? Or do we have the state assist these local municipalities in upgrading? What do we do with that? How do we...
Yeah, I would definitely say some of the responsibility should be on Foxconn. I mean, their projected goal is for every $1 billion that we invest into them, we receive $3 billion. Obviously, we won't have that up front, but my hope is that in this legislation, they do have some specifications that if they're going to need more water, that they're going to be the ones contributing to that infrastructure and the additions that are needed to increase capacity.
Do we get that written into this legislation?
I would hope they do. I would hope they do.
WEDC would comment that that's not needed. When any time we asked, any of the lawmakers asked for something specific in the bill, he said that's not needed, not necessary.
And I know you said you talked to someone in Racine. Someone in the Kenosha water treatment facility was quoted, I forget which article it was, but he said that they are prepared for it.
Yeah, and like I said, this was for Racine, and if it specifically went to Mount Pleasant,
Okay.
if it was in that area, that would be part of the Racine wastewater.
Right.
Who would need to upgrade.
Right. So maybe Kenosha's ready, maybe Racine needs some upgrades. So with the amount of water that they're using, I would think almost both municipalities would need to take on that burden. I don't know. That's a lot of water.
10 million gallons a day.
Yeah.
And we're going to, I mean, this is separate from a discharge permit that they would have to get as well. That falls in an entirely different vein of permitting and stuff like that. But as of right now, when it comes to dumping into the wastelands and stuff like that, basically that would be thrown out the door. So if they have some water seeping through or something like that, it's basically, oh, okay.
All right.
Trust
so
you.
One more thing that I want to touch on before we wrap up, and it goes so fast. Like there's so much. I think we need to do a second show on this because,
I'm game.
because there's.
Yeah, same
and I
here.
think there's going to be more that comes out about this.
Yeah,
like
the next few weeks we're going to see a lot more.
Yeah.
We could get a site placement, and we'll also
Yeah.
get some additional job numbers according to some state officials on this.
I think this is probably something we need to revisit in the next couple of weeks. But one thing that has been in the news a lot that people have talked about is the working conditions in China and at their plants, and that's really concerning. One of the plants has suicide nets. There was just recently a death by somebody who was crossing a track to get to work because if they miss work for any reason, even a flood, which there was a flood, they couldn't get to work. If they miss work, then they don't get any of their incentives. And I believe it was a woman who was hit and killed by a train. So is it a sweatshop? Are we bringing a sweatshop to Wisconsin? Should we be concerned about their
Honestly,
their
I mean,
track
we've
record
got
there?
we've got great laws on the books, whether those are enforced or not. But other than that, overall, I think Foxconn will have to adhere to OSHA standards when it comes to anything. So honestly, I think that's a moot point when it comes to this.
Okay.
But that mentality that they have in China, that already they're not showing the respect for workers, what kind of attitude are they going to have towards our workers, where they actually
Right.
have to treat them good?
Yeah. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Obviously, OSHA is in place, and they'll have to follow those regulations. But I hope that Wisconsin not only is benefited from this business, but the company is benefited from the standards that we set for our employees and the privilege it is to have a business in Wisconsin. Because whether you have 5 employees or thousands of employees, hopefully they follow that same standard and realize it's a privilege that they're here. Yes, it's going to help us. But at the same time, we're not going to tolerate any of those unsafe conditions.
Mm-hmm. I hope so. Mm-hmm. And I hope that I would hope that would in turn encourage them to better the working conditions for their workers all over the world.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one with,
Yeah, and a lot of that is...
Any business looks to cut costs anywhere they can, and that's why they do stuff overseas. So they're coming here, and we're giving them a payout saying, hey, you want to come here? But it's a multi-billion-dollar company. You guys, if you want to come work here, then come work here. Do good for our Wisconsin workers, because that's what this bill should be about, is Wisconsin families paying a good, decent wage, treating our workers well. I mean, you should be coming here to, that's what they said. The state leaders said that this was a win for Wisconsin workers.
Yeah. Ideally, they come here, they provide good jobs, they follow our environmental regulations and our working conditions. That would be the ideal situation. So, like I said, I think we're going to have to do another show on this once more information comes out. We get more details about what is happening. Maybe we know exactly where it's going to be built. So hopefully you would like to come back.
Absolutely.
And talk about it again.
Definitely.
So I'm going to wrap up that, but I wanted to talk to Vanya a little bit. He's doing something pretty exciting possibly here.
Yeah,
in the next
absolutely.
few months. What are your plans, Vanya?
Well, April 2018 isn't too far away.
It's not less than a year.
Yeah, but I'm giving some thought to the Green Bay City Council. So hopefully I'll be back on an episode to tell you more about that as we get closer.
Yeah, that would be really awesome. And which district are you planning?
Currently, I'm looking at District 6.
Okay,
Yeah.
and you just moved?
Yep, moved there about a week ago now, but have already been having discussions for a few weeks with the neighbors, and a pretty neat district, very diverse district, which I'm excited about.
Yeah.
I've had some really cool stories about some individuals who actually adopted kids in that district, and being adopted myself. It was just, really good heart-to-heart, so can't wait to tell you more about that.
Yeah, that's exciting. I can't wait to see how that all pans out for you, and it's exciting to have young people interested in running for office. So
Absolutely.
Carrie, maybe you need to give that some thought too.
It's being explored.
Awesome.
That's great. I love that our community here in Green Bay, we have so many younger people who are interested, and we have such a vibrant local community and local interest in politics, which I don't see in a lot of other
Entertaining
places.
at times.
It is entertaining, but I would love to see people like Vanya on the council, and I'd love to see people like you too, Terry, on the council, and maybe bring a little more dignity to
Absolutely.
politics.
Well, specifically for the city council, yes. Green Bay City Council.
All right. Well,
Thank you for having us. This was awesome.
thanks so much
definitely.
for coming on. So we need to wrap up. That ends Political Radar Echo episode 10. Thank you again, both of you, for coming on. For show notes, go to politicalradarecho.com/10. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to get notifications about new episodes. For more great political content, check out Rhonda on Political Radar Pulse. And if you'd like to support this show, you can join us on Facebook. We have a Political Radar Echo community. And you can buy shirts and other merchandise on politicalradar.com/shop. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for watching Political Radar Echo. To ensure that you'll never miss an episode, subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. To check out more episodes of Political Radar Echo, visit politicalradarecho.com or connect with us on Facebook or Twitter.